Hey everybody, Derek here to bring you another video for The Walking Dead Season 5. And today what I wanted to do was give my thoughts on the group separating again. Basically, at the end of the third episode, we had Rick and a couple people. I believe that the people that are left at the church are Rick, Michonne, Carl, Judith, Father Gabriel, Tyrese, and Sasha. And then we have Daryl and Carol who are out, searching for Beth. And we had Abraham, Rosita, Eugene, Glenn, Maggie, and Tara all leave on the bus to continue on to Washington. And I just want to give my thoughts about, what the group splitting up, how Glenn and Maggie are feeling, basically what are the benefits of doing this and what are the consequences and what it might mean for the show and the plot. So just in case you're not caught up, there will be spoilers in this about what happened in the episode. Basically, potential predictions that might reveal plot lines that you might not want to know about. You want to go in clean. So if that's the case, don't watch the episode because don't watch the video because you might be spoiled. Okay. So, in the Walking Dead story, we often have a splitting of the group or, into several groups for various purposes. I mean, sometimes we had people who were, going out on little missions in order to get something done, and that provided for some story, definitely provided with some entertainment. And you also had, the group split up by the end of the fourth season, mid-season finale, Too Far Gone, when the prison got overtaken and they were all spread out, and they all found their way back together again. And now they're, again they're kind of splitting up, but again, it's for a different reason. Plus, the consequences of doing so may not be as grave, because at least they know where they're going. I mean, Abraham left a map for Rick and the group to follow, and most likely, Abraham is going to either stick to that route or at various points he's going to, put a sign up somewhere, that's visible saying, Rick, go this way because, this place is no good. Don't go this way. So, I definitely think that it was, uh, you know, important that they continue. And you definitely saw Rick and Abraham's different views coming into play with this. I and both men were right and wrong for various different reasons. Rick, he didn't want to leave the area because again, he cares about his people. He cares about people he considers his family. And when you have Daryl and Carol still missing, if you get in the bus and, leave without them, that leaves them high and dry. They have no idea where they're going. They have no idea, what to do. And two against all these zombies is definitely not a good thing for a long-term plan. So, it's very clear that, Rick was right in staying because you don't want to leave people that you love and care about behind. But on the other hand, Abraham also had various good points as well. One, his mission is to get Eugene to Washington, and he's going to do what he has to do. He has a little bit of time to, figure things out, but he can't just sit around idle and let, the hunters come in and take Eugene or walkers surround the church. Because that's the other thing is when there are more people in a group, I think that, there's more chance that you're going to make more noise. You're going to be more noticeable to the walkers. And I don't know if necessarily the walkers can smell you or not. I mean, they talked about that off and on, but, does that matter as much when you're so surrounded? I don't know. But, you think about that when there's more people in a group, there's more chances that you're probably going to get attacked by walkers. So continuing on, not staying in one place for a very long time is also a good idea. And I kind of liked how, Rick and Abraham kind of patched things over. Abraham left a note on the map for Rick saying, sorry, I was an a-hole, come to Washington because the new world's going to need Rick Grimes. And that was a nice, gesture. And I'm sure Rick in his own way appreciated that. But you can see that the conflicts of the two men are definitely, not over yet. I think that we may continue to see that throughout the season. Now, when are they going to get back together? I'm not sure. Because one of the things that you saw in the trailer for season 5 was the bus flips. I don't know what the heck happens, but the bus ends up flipping on its side, and you can see that in the trailer. So it's clear they're going to wreck the bus. Something's going to happen, and I don't know if it's because something stupid or if it just was an accident, whatever. But they're going to need a new mode of transportation, and that's going to be a part of the episode that they're focused on. Because we see them going into a fire station, like they might take the fire truck. I don't know, but they're at least going and killing walkers. There, you see Abraham, smacking walkers with his, machine gun. So it's pretty clear that they're going to get stranded for a little bit, and we may see them hook up, by the end of the mid-season, or we might not see them hook up until much later into the fifth season. And I think they'll get back together before they get to the Alexandria safe zone. I don't think that we're gonna, see different groups going there. But and that's just partially, in my opinion, too, about how they want to pace the story. Because one thing I'm still not sure about is, are we going to, have a time jump in between the mid-season finale and the spring premiere? Because I thought that was a very, very good possibility. They're in Georgia, and they have to go from Georgia to DC. Now, of course, in a regular old great world, you can do that in, probably a day, maybe less if you just go straight through. But this is the Walking Dead zombie apocalypse, and you can't go, from point A to point B without worrying about zombies, traffic jams, food, supplies, a lot of different things that you can't take into consideration. So it's going to be slower going, and it may take them weeks to get up there. So I thought that there was definitely a possibility that we might see a time jump in between where they're in, Virginia or something, and they're like, oh, well, we're almost there, but something happens. There's a possibility of that. So, I don't know whether they'll necessarily get together beforehand, but I would like to see them get back together soon, because I think that exploring these various personalities are better when they're together. But it also provides for, other stories when they're separated. Especially bringing into the forefront Glenn and Maggie. And I thought to myself, I was like, well, why would Glenn and Maggie leave with Abraham and leave their group members behind? And I think that there were several reasons behind that, in the end. One, I think that Glenn, working off of Hershel, because that Hershel had a big impact on Glenn and Maggie, and I think that they carry a lot of that hope with them. And I think that they want to see this hope form in the end. They want to go with Abraham. They're committed to this mission, and they want to get up there and be able to, get this cured. That's what they want to see. And I think that they, figured it's better, we're serving them better by going with them than by staying here and just sitting idle when there's nothing to do, but wait for Daryl and Carol to come back, and we want to be helpful. So I think that was part of it. And I think that another part of it, though, comes down to, kind of forcing Rick's hand a little bit. Because you could tell that, Rick is still in the, hey, I'm leader and you can't tell me what we're going to do, stance. You see that in him. He is very headstrong, and we see that he wants to be in control. And when Abraham comes along and says, no, this is what we're doing, they almost came to blows, Rick and Abraham. And Glenn had to be the mediator that said, no, hey guys, stop it. And I think that in a sense, he always has respected Rick as a leader in many ways, but I feel like Glenn, in another sense, also knows that Rick can have power over people, and he needs to be able to get his input in, and the only way that he can do that is to force Rick's hand and say, Rick, you and Abraham are both right, but I need to be able to make sure that you're going to follow through with what you say you're going to do. Because, yeah, they were all like, rah, rah, let's go to Washington. But, I think that they both have their ideas of how they want to go about that. Rick is thinking, let's get everybody back together and then we'll form a plan and then we'll go. Whereas Abraham's more like, hey, Day, it's time to go. Bam, let's move it. We're leaving people behind if they're not ready. The weak get left behind. And I think that Glenn wants both outcomes, but the only way that he can guarantee that these groups continue to work together is if he goes. And I think that that's something that we're going to see is, Glenn and Maggie went with Abraham because they want to make sure that Rick and the rest of the group come along. I'm not saying that Rick would necessarily say, oh, we're not going, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I don't think that Rick would necessarily change his mind, but I think that they want to make sure that Rick is going to want to get moving once Daryl and Carol come back and not waste time. So I think that was part of the reason why they went along as well, because they didn't want to, give Rick an option. Rick has a lot of power, and if Rick would all of a sudden decide, hey, this mission's BS, we're not going, it could lead other people to feel the same way, I think. So I think they were forcing his hand. I also think, though, in another way that they also needed to get away from them for a little bit. And, I don't know if it's because, again, they were just trying to honor their word. Glenn gave his word to Abraham saying, hey, if you stay, we'll go with you. And that might be, again, to demonstrate that he has trust in Abraham and he wants to show Abraham that he does trust in him and the mission. So that's why he went, just keeping his word. But Glenn and Maggie definitely, you saw just how taken aback they were by the brutal killing of the hunters. I don't think that they had a problem with, killing the hunters. I mean, there was nothing wrong with, wanting to do that for what they did and for trying to kill them and for what they did to Bob. But the sadistic nature of the way that Rick, Abraham, Sasha, and Michonne went about doing it, I think is what made, Glenn and Maggie and Tara a little more like, whoa, like, we're with these people and look what they just did. I mean, and I think that it's not saying that they're going to hate the group. They're definitely not going to. And I think that, again, they feel that family bond, but, it's kind of like when you're, if your brother's like, acting up and, being mean, you kind of want to get away from that for a little while, let him cool down. And I think that, there were definitely a lot of emotions that went into, everybody in that scene because, you had someone like Rick who was just like, yep, we did it. Bam. And then you saw in Sasha just like, that intensity of, stabbing Martin. But if you look at that scene, you can see Sasha, like the realization comes back and it hits her like, oh my God, what did I just do? It was justified, and I think they could have, they were going to kill him, and if they would have just killed him with like a bullet to the head, I don't think anybody would have really been like, whoa, what did we just do? I think, again, it was just the brutal nature that went into it is what set some people, taking them aback a little bit. And I think that, Glenn and Maggie seeing what happened there, I think in some ways they wanted to separate themselves a little bit from Rick and his intensity, just to, collect and get themselves back together. I just saw, in that scene how intense Glenn and Maggie just, like the looks on their face are just like disbelieving and disgusted. And again, I think they love everybody in that group. They love Rick like family, but I think that by separating themselves a little bit, they will be able to, collect themselves and then be able to, be happy to see them again and to acclimate back into the group. And then they can all continue together. I think that, because it's kind of like how everybody was feeling about Carol, Carol, was ostracized from the group, and Maggie even told Rick, back in season 4, you were right to do that. And yet, Carol comes out of the woods after they escape from Terminus, and everybody goes, Carol, and it's like, you see that, decisions that are made, you feel one way about it for one moment, but then the next moment you're able to get past that and welcome them back in. And I think that's exactly what is kind of going on here is, they were just so taken aback by what happened that by separating themselves from Rick and, Michonne and them for being, sadistic. I mean, Abraham too, but I think that, just separating themselves from Rick's, power over them a little bit, it kind of, again, allows them to grow a little bit. It allows for them to, find themselves again, justify a little bit what happened, just, to stay away from Rick for a little bit. But then once everybody gets back together, it's going to be like, hey, it's good to see you. Thank goodness we're back together. Family, let's go. So I think there's just a lot of emotions that were going on that Glenn and Maggie needed to separate themselves for a little bit. But, I am excited to see them split up again, because it allows for storylines to grow. I hope that Tara's featured a little more because I think that they still have something in mind for her. But, I think that by separating them for some episodes, we might be able to see Tara come out a little bit from her shell. So I hope to see that. I hope to see Abraham and Rosita and Eugene interact a little more. Very excited to see it. So I'm going to bring this video to a close. If you guys have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them. If you have any other ideas, don't be afraid to post them in the comments. Feel free to subscribe. I have more videos coming. If you guys have any video topics you would like for me to do, don't be afraid to suggest them in the comments. I have no problem accepting video topics. I want to know what kind of videos that you want to watch. So don't be afraid to let me know. Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you.